Welcome everybody. Today we're going to talk about some Python basics. This is the second video in our Python programming course. If you haven't already, please make sure you watch the video on installing PyCharm before we get started here. A couple of reminders before we dive in. First, make sure you watch the entire video before starting to code. This helps with recall, allowing you to better remember the material when you begin working on the code. Of course, you can go back to the video if you need to double check something or to figure something out. And second, if you have any questions or if something on your screen looks different from what I have, feel free to raise your hand and I'll come over to help. So, today we're going to discover some Python basics. The first step is to open PyCharm if you haven't already. You should see the project that we last created, Sandbox, and then the Python file, Sandbox itself. Uh, Click on it and it will bring you to the editor view. Uh, should look similar to this and look familiar to Hello World, the print statement that we created. The first Python basics we're going to cover is how to print things to the screen, and this is exactly what that is. You do this by using the print function. In Python, a function is a piece of code that performs a specific task. The print function does exactly what the name suggests. It prints what's between the parentheses to the screen. In Python, when you want to print text, or a string is what the term would be, you put that text in quotes within the parentheses. For example, if I want to print something else, I can type it in the quotes and wrap it in the print statement. If I type print, and you can see it starts the predictive text, and we can press enter because it has this first option highlighted. If we press enter, it will choose that, and then you'll see that the cursor goes in between the parentheses to begin typing, and so that next statement that we can write will have a quotation marks, and then we will type something. This is and you'll notice I put exclamation points on the end of everything to make it just a little bit more exciting. Uh, so if we look at this print statement, hello world, and on the second line, we can see another print statement says this is another sentence. So if we go ahead and run this, you'll see that it prints both hello world, and this is another sentence right underneath it. You can add as many print statements as you need, but after a while it can become pretty repetitive. Another fundamental concept in programming is understanding how programs execute. So this is a program. This is our sandbox program that we've created that has two print statements. And Python programs generally run from the top to the bottom. Each line one after the other. So we see the first line prints hello world, next line prints that. So if we continue that, print statement, quotes, this is a third sentence. As we progress, we'll explore more advanced techniques that take into consideration the flow of our programs, and we call that control flow. Uh, Printing text is useful, but there's much more we can do. Another concept in programming is the idea of a variable. A variable is similar to what you've seen in math class. You said x squared plus y squared equals z squared. You can see those letters represent variables, and that is very accurate to what we do in Python as well. Uh, It's a name of an object that stores a value. For example, in math, like you said, like I said, 5 plus x equals 12. That x, that represents a value, uh, also a variable. Declaring a variable is very simple. So let's do this. Let's create two variables, x and y. I'll set x equal to 7 and y equal to 7.5. With these two lines of code, I've created two variables and assigned them values. In Python, it's straightforward to declare variables. Just give them a name and a value. When I run the program now, you'll see that it didn't give us anything because we didn't declaring a variable isn't enough to uh, produce any output. To see the values of these variables, we have to create a print statement for them. For example, we can say print x. And you'll see the predictive text, it pops up a lot when you start typing. So please pay attention to when you can shorten any of the typing that you would have to do. But we'll print X. We'll also print Y. Mm. And you'll see now that we run that, our three print statements up here, 7 and 7.5, print XX. But variables in Python can also hold other types of values or other types of datas like strings. For instance, I can create a variable called sentence and set it equal to a string. Let's set sentence equals this is a variable in. If I want to see this sentence printed out, I need to use a print statement when I run the program now. So when I say, again, just declaring the variable isn't enough to see it in our output. We have to command it to actually print sentence. This is a variable in English along with our other print statements as well. So once you've declared variables, you can use them in different ways in your program as well. You can include them in the print statements like we have here, or we can perform basic operations with them. For instance, we can have simple math. We can print x plus y, print y plus minus x, x times y, or print x divided by y. And if we run this, you'll see the different outputs we are getting from these print statements. So to recap, our print statements that we learned, you use the print functions to display text variable values on the screen. Number two, variables. We declared variables, x equals 7, y is 7.5, giving them a name, and we can manipulate and modify these variables in different ways. performing basic operations. Uh, and these will be the term that to define this operation, these are referred to as operators. So when you hear operator, minus, plus, addition, subtraction, division, that's why they're called operators. So now for your in-class activity, I'd like you to write a small script in PyCharm that does the following things. It prints a couple of sentences to the screen, just like we did up here before. Uh, you create and manipulate variables of numerical values so that you can add, subtract, or perform basic operations with them. Create variables with a string value. Remember the string value rather than an actual numeric value that we have here. Once you've completed this, just raise your hand and I'll come by to check it. This is an in-class check-in, so as long as you get it done and show it to me, you'll receive a grade for it.